Incorta is a lightning-fast data analytics platform that enables you and I to analyze data without the need for complex and costly data transformations. In the next 15 minutes or so, we shall be using the Incorta Data Analytics platform along with Incorta's visualization suite to identify how the weather can impact the buying patterns of customers for an online sporting goods store. So, let's go ahead and get started. Our friendly database administrators have gone ahead and created a connector for us to use against our web store database. Incorta supports a wide variety of pluggable connectors, but in this case, we should be using a MySQL connector. Let's quickly check that the database is available. Everything looks good. Great. Now, we're going to use that in a minute, but there is another way that I can bring data into Incorta, and that is using files, like CSV files. We want to analyze how the weather affects customers' purchasing behavior. So I downloaded a CSV file that provides weather data for every zip code in 48 of the 50 US states, and that's for 5 years. So this file is about 10 gigs in size on my file system, and it contains about 74 million records. This substantial weather file takes about 3 minutes or so to load into Incorta, so I went ahead and loaded it ahead of time. Let me show you. Here I have my schemas, which is very much like a regular database schema, or a logical grouping of tables for any organization or security purposes. I've already created a schema called weather, and it has inside of it one table, which I also named weather. Here you can see that I have the 74 million records available, and I can also click on the table details to see all of the weather metrics that are available. Incorta also provides additional columns for data that doesn't exist in the original data source. And these are populated using Incorta's powerful formula builder. So we have our weather data. Now it's time for us to bring in our web store data. For this task, we're going to use Incorta's schema wizard. I'm going to give it the name of web sales. On the left side, you can see the MySQL database. And on the right side, you can see the Incorta schema. I can easily select the tables I want to bring to Incorta. In this case, I'll select products. Incorta automatically brings in the data structure details and determines whether this is a key, a dimension, or a measure. I could make changes now or later if I want. So let's go ahead and bring in all the tables. That's it. I'm done. Here you can see the metadata, or the data dictionary if you like, for the tables that we want to analyze. The next stage is to load these tables. So let's do that right now. Incorta provides the ability to perform full loads, or even incremental. Our unique incremental update feature enables our customers to refresh their data every 5 minutes using a powerful Incorta upsert statement. The Incorta Data Analytics platform can ingest data at an incredible rate of about 6 gigs per minute, and that's on commodity 2-CPU Linux machines. Now, imagine being able to load 1 billion records of data in under 1 hour. And remember, we don't change the shape of the source data. We don't require the creation of a star schema, or a cube, or an aggregation table. We simply selected what we wanted and let Incorta do the rest. It's that simple, even on large volumes of data. Now, our data is loaded. It's 11 million records of sales data. So we could start performing analysis using Incorta's visualization suite right now. But remember that weather data? Well, let's go ahead and join that along with the sales data that we have. So to add a join is really simple. I just need to join my sales records with the weather data. And I'm going to do that based on the zip code and the date of the transaction. Now we can view our entity relationship diagram and see how all the data is joined. I could start building dashboards right now, but I have one final step. I want to create a business schema, which provides an easy way for people to interact with this data without the need to even understand the underlying data model. This is especially useful when you're analyzing data from complex data model applications. Now, in this case, I'm going to create a business schema, and this will enable me to create a simplified view of the data, again, without changing the underlying shape of the data. Business schemas actually make it a breeze to engage with complex data structures, and that's whether you're using Incorta's visualization suite or even your preferred visualization tool. So here you can see I'm just adding in the appropriate fields that I want to make available to my business users, to those who need to engage with this data. Now I can create a dashboard using my business schema. Here, I'm using the Incorta visualization suite to create the charts and tables to help us understand the customer's buying trends. So let's start with the simple amount sold over a year. Incorta's analytics data platform instantly gives me the answer, without any pre-aggregation, star schema, or cubes. This is really game-changing. Let's see if we have a seasonal business. So to do that, let's search for months, and let's bring that in. Let's move the year down from the grouping dimension to the coloring dimension. No doubt, we're dealing with a seasonal business, and with a very predictable sales pattern looking by the months. Let's move the year back to the grouping dimension, and let's make this a drill down. So once we select the year, Incorta will show us the months. So let's give our chart a name, click Done, and let's check out that drill down. The dashboards get a lot more interesting once we see how the charts interact with each other. Let's add another. This time, we'll add a stacked column chart. Again, we'll use amount and year, but this time, we're going to color the columns by product category. I think I'll also go ahead and add subcategory as well. And then maybe drill down to be product name. Of course, that might be predictable, but we never had to define the hierarchy, so we can jump around and bring in other things, maybe like custom agenda, or even the cloud coverage from the weather information. Now I can click on snow and see the revenue chart reflect the update, and drill down all the way, selecting a subcategory, a product, a custom agenda, and even the cloud coverage for the day of the transaction. Now I'll go ahead and just move these charts to be side by side. Let's add a chart to plot amounts sold against temperature. I'll select the temp as being the dimension and amount sold as my measure. The result isn't that informative. Bell curve is pretty predictable. Well, let's see what happens if I bring in the product category. Now that's a little more interesting. I can clearly see which product lines are more popular at different temperatures. I'll click on Done and add the chart to my dashboard. Now this is beginning to take shape. And while I love visualizations, I do like to get access on real numbers. So let's build a pivot table using Incorta. Pivot tables are traditionally very slow and complex queries, but with Incorta, they're a breeze. Incorta can in fact perform 100,000 pivot point calculations in 0.6 of a second. Pivot tables can also support conditional formatting to make significant numbers stand out. And to make this pivot table really large, I'm going to add month just to show how fast Incorta can process these queries. Again, without the need to change any of the data. No cubes, no aggregation tables, no star schemas. Just the data in its original form, yet responding faster than any other jump through the data hoops approach, or more formally known as ETL, that you might have had to go through previously. Before we see how the finished dashboard is, we have one last component to add. A table listing will give us a window on the transactions in the system without any aggregation. So let's go ahead and bring in the most relevant columns to a standard listing table. This will provide key details on the transactions being shown in all of the aggregation charts and the pivot table that will be above it. Now, when I start typing San Francisco, Incorta's type ahead search provides me with instant results. All my charts are updated to show me the new calculations based on my filter of San Francisco. My pivot table has been recalculated, and I can even click on a specific number in that pivot table to figure out exactly how is that number calculated. Incorta's data analytics platform truly unlocks the value of your data in ways never imaginable with traditional approaches. Incorta is analytics reimagined, an analytics platform without the need for expensive appliances or complex and restrictive star schemas. Incorta provides the freedom to explore, and that is what changes everything.